If psychology and pop culture had a baby, they'd call it Shrink Tank.
A new paper reveals more intelligent people are quicker to learn and unlearn.
90% chance that there's some weird animal out there. Yeah.
Stern's been doing this forever. And far more extreme. From Nashville and Charlotte, this is the Shrink Tank Podcast. Welcome, everybody, and thanks for joining us. I'm Dave Verhagen in Nashville, and we've got a great show for you. Our trending topic today is the disaster artist. It's so bad, it's good. We're going to talk about movies, TV, music, and other things that are so terrible that they're actually really, really fun and good. But first, let's meet our Charlotte panel. Dr. Emma Kate Wright is here. Hello, Emma Kate.
Hi, Dave.
Any good goings-on in your life?
No, I'm just happy about the holidays, spending time with family. So looking forward to some time off.
We're sitting here right between Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's a fun time of year.
Yeah.
And Dr. Frank Gaskell is with us. Hello, Frank.
Hello, David.
Do you like this time of year, Frank, right in the middle of the holidays?
I do, and it's a whole new experience with these two whippets I've got.
Why so?
Because, when it was cold last year, they were tiny little puppies, so they weren't really running around. But, man, when that cold air hit and they went outside, they lost their mind. I thought they were going to jump literally into the sky. They run so freaking fast, and then they sleep for 20 hours, so it's pretty cool.
Whippets for the holidays.
Yep.
And Jonathan Hedderly is our certified Asian, who rounds out our panel. Jonathan, do you like this time of year?
I do. I sometimes, by the time Christmas rolls around, though, I'm sick of Christmas music, or I'm ready for it just to come. The other thing is that people get so stressed out.
No.
Yep.
That to me is a major turnoff of how we can take something so positive and so that's something we long for throughout the year, and once it's here, like, people just get in the way and can ruin it.
I don't anymore. Honestly, I order everything online. Just go to Amazon, order everything. Have a very simple plan, like for Christmas. We go up to the mountains. The kids that can join us go. It's like there's no more of the shenanigans. I mean, it's like very low stress. It's been for like the last probably 2 years, maybe 3. So
Well, and also since you moved to Nashville, Dave, all right, we've got a super Target and a hotel being built right across from us. Within about a mile, I'd say upwards of 1,500 new apartments and townhomes, and the mall. So my 5-minute commute to work is about to go to probably 30 minutes. It's going to be insane.
it will be impossible to get to work.
Yes, impossible.
You should start digging a tunnel now. Dig a tunnel from your house to. That would be. I mean, honestly, that's not a bad thing to think about.
I've always wanted a tunnel, but I'd live in it.
Remember when we used to have these fantasies that we would live in our office and have little tunnels up to little hideaways where we would tinker with watches or whatever we were doing. You know?
That was your fantasy, Dave?
Yeah.
It was kind of a sneak around in the tunnel fantasy. Yeah.
I'd have the glasses with lights, and there'd be a rope, and Andrew would allow people to come in or not.
I feel like we're in Fort Dave and Frank right now. We're reminiscing on your childhood. And then we could do this and that.
We could play with our
I'm
puppets.
telling you, we always have a get a room, you two moment on the podcast. Because Dave called it like sneak around in the tunnel, fantasy. I'm sorry.
Well, it's either that or the pillow fort. So
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Did you say pillow fort or fight?
Pillow fort. Well, Jonathan, you have rounded up some good story for us for our first segment that we call
Being Human.
So many titans in the tech world, like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, they have said that they don't allow their kids to spend a lot of time around technology. Now, an MIT psychologist and professor named Sherry Turkle, who's written a lot about the perils of technology, says it's because those who spend the most time with tech fully grasp its dark side. So kids who spend more time on their phones and on social media tend to face higher risks for depression and suicide. Frank, what do you make of this contradiction of those that know the most about technology and actually are creating it prevent a lot of exposure to their kids with it.
Well, I mean, they've seen it. They've seen it firsthand in their companies, how people have engaged with it. And they're also just exceptionally smart people. So they can kind of think critically about technology. And most of those people are sending their kids to Montessori schools. Bill Gates wouldn't let his kids have a phone until they were 14. And they don't allow them in the kitchen or at lunch, meals, because kids are losing the ability to have a conversation, to kind of sit with quiet and be okay with that anxiousness and then fill it with conversation. And the social media, is everybody's posting all their happy pictures and they're getting depressed. Is when I went off all my social media for 7 weeks, I felt healthy. I felt much healthier.
You sure that wasn't just because you weren't tucking in your shirt
Yeah, that's probably it.
and you were wearing jeans
That's probably it.
and you just let
And
your
I
hair
wasn't
go?
showering. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it. Thank
okay.
you.
There's
Thank
some emerging research that's saying that there seems to be a connection between depression, even suicidality, and smartphone use. And it might be a bit of a stretch to put it all on that, but there seems to be increasingly evidence that like kids that are just immersed in their smartphone aren't emotionally well. So do you feel like these guys kind of know that instinctively? So I guess where I'm going with this is, do they know that they have sort of a poisonous product, or do they just say, look, the product by itself is okay as long as you balance it, and keep some sense of, balance in your life with it, and then they just did that? Or do you think they know that this isn't a healthy thing in general?
I would hope that they would view it as more of a balance factor than something poisonous. Because I think, as creators, they probably view their product as something really exciting and innovative, and hopefully they're making it for good uses. So, yeah, I mean, I see your point there, because it is interesting when you really think about how all these giants in technology are saying, nope, kids, you can't use these devices right now. But I think it's just like anything that moderation is key.
Yeah, it's kind of like somebody who made whiskey or vodka but wouldn't let their kids drink or something.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
they kind of know there's some aspect of it that's not entirely good.
Yeah, and I'm sure that, I feel pretty confident they weren't that in tune to the mental health implications so much as if we're focusing on their own kids, just how impressionable and the developing brain and how they want a very stable and normal childhood and upbringing for their kids, because they're already losing that if they're the kids of Steve Jobs,
Right.
And these real prominent, well-known people. So I think, part of it has to do with technology, but I think the other is trying to recreate a very stable and normalized childhood so that they get all this exposure to a well-rounded upbringing that is harder and harder when you are the child of not just some of the most powerful and wealthy people in the world, but those that are at the forefront of creating technology.
So here's a question that we get asked all the time by parents, right? So their kids are being raised in a culture where really it's almost impossible for a kid who's 12, 13, 14 or so on up not to have a cell phone and not to have social media, maybe to a lesser extent, but some of that. I mean, how do you walk through that as a parent? What if there's increasing evidence that this isn't good for someone's mental health, at least when it's out of balance? What do you do?
Well, tell me what you mean by what do you do?
Like, do you just say, I'm not allowing you to have a cell phone until you're 14 or 15 years old? Do you say we're going to curtail the limits on it? We're going how does a parent walk through that in an effective way?
Well, I give talks on this pretty consistently, and it's just like the sex talk. It's not a talk, it's a series of conversations. And technology and children is a series of conversations that you have throughout their childhood. And it's putting boundaries, but I think the majority of Americans, they just take the easy route. I see 3-year-olds holding the iPad so that the mom can continue her conversation. That's bad.
Yeah, I give a lot of talks on tech too, actually more than Frank because mine are better, and I'm
Yeah, right.
I'm more in demand than Frank because they want an Asian to talk about technology and things along those lines. One of the first messages I send to parents is to teach their kids that technology is a privilege; it's not a right. And that their kids are going to survive with limitations, restrictions, or even consequences around technology use. But then, like Frank is saying, it really is about developing a healthy relationship with technology and developing strong communication between the parents and the kids, because once you just put in these rigid rules, they're not developing the critical skills of how to have a healthy and flexible relationship with their technology use.
Yeah, and parents absolutely need to be very critical of the types of apps that are on their kids' phones. You need to know what your kids have available to them in their hands.
Yeah, it's a big issue. I mean, I think we've kind of known for a long time it's important, but as we progress in this culture of technology being so consuming, it's increasingly a big issue as we see the mental health implications of it. And to be honest, my position has been historically, it doesn't do a lot of good for therapists just to bemoan the fact that kids are on cell phones and on social media. We have to understand that stuff and enter into it. But I think I'm increasingly getting to a point where I'm like, I think we need to push a little harder for people to take stronger stands as parents with helping their kids modulate, even if other kids are doing the same, doing all the same stuff. Let's kind of transition to our trending topic. And the movie The Disaster Artist is coming out on December 1st. And to be honest, this is one of the movies I'm most excited about for this whole season. It's James Franco. It's based on the making of a disaster of a movie called The Room.
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Jonathan, first I want to ask you, are you interested in this movie? Are you going to go see it?
Oh, I am so looking forward to this movie. In fact, I am so upset because last week both Frank and I had the opportunity and circumstances just didn't make it possible. We actually had passes to go to a screening of The Room, and that has become a very infamous experience similar to the Rocky Horror Picture Show, where people will dress up as their favorite character. They will recite the lines. People will bring a football and throw it around with one of the more infamous scenes in the movie. So I was really disappointed I couldn't go. But yes, this movie looks hilarious.
So either of you guys, Emma, Kate, or Frank, have you seen The Room, any chance, on anything streaming or rented or anything like that?
I have seen clips, so I'm aware of what it is, but I've not seen it.
Nor have I.
Yeah. So let's talk about disasters that are really actually fun and good. Is there any movie, TV show, music, game, anything like that is kind of a personal guilty pleasure? Like you love it, but it's horrible. Emma Kate, how about you?
I mean, yeah, I've got lots of these
you're
like
speaking
little
her language,
guilty
Dave.
pleasures. I think my favorite, which was so surprising, and everyone, ready for the judgment, I loved The Jersey Shore. I just loved it. It was so bad. They had the Guidos and Guidettes, the Boardwalk,
I have no idea
GTL,
what
which
she's
was
talking
gym,
about right
tanning,
now.
then laundry, spray tans, like you name it. The higher the hair, the better. Like it was a mess, just a hot mess. And it was so entertaining to me.
Okay, so I'm being serious about this. Why did you love it? Why did you love that show?
Because it was so bad. Genuinely, I just wanted to see the drama unfold between some of these, personalities on there. There's lots of debauchery with getting arrested and, being drunk in public, and it's just these people were such train wrecks.
So like a autobiography, like watching your life.
Of my life.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no. Never been arrested or been drunk in public like that. But
like that.
But
Not with her
but
hair
yeah,
high.
not with my hair really high. But no, but I mean, to be honest, I genuinely watched it to see what would go wrong. That was why I liked watching that. It's terrible, and you're judging, and I said I was ready for it, and I'm ready for it.
As strong of a word we need.
I also like The Real Housewives.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Nightmare.
One of my kids used to watch all those shows. Used to watch Honey Boo Boo. Used to watch
Ew.
Real Housewives.
Oh.
And she was born in another country. And I was like, that's not what most of America's like. And then I thought about it, like, maybe it is. Like, I mean,
It might be.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Frank, how about you?
Well, I've got two. One is kind of strange. You remember those crackers that came sealed with a little bowl of cheese, and you peel the top
with the little red stick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the little red stick. There for about 3 months, I would go buy a giant box of them, and I had them all stashed in my glove compartment of my car. And every day I'd go home from work, I'd pull one out, and I'd peel it back, and I would eat it at each stoplight before I got home, and then would throw it away. And it made me really happy every day.
It's so strange.
Yep.
I feel guilty for you. I don't. That's not a guilty pleasure. I just feel sad for Frank.
The second is the movie Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension.
That's not a guilty pleasure.
That's a good movie.
That's a cult movie.
It is?
That's a cult movie. That's well revered.
I thought it was bad.
No.
Oh,
Laugh
okay.
a while you can, monkey boy.
Laugh a while you can, the monkey boy. John Big Boutte.
John Big Boutte. Oh, I love that movie. I
No,
love
something
it.
like Ice Pirates would be a guilty pleasure.
Okay, well then my backup movie would be the movie Battleship.
Yeah.
If that's on TV,
Wow.
I just have to stop and watch it. I can't click off it. I have to sit there and watch it. And I don't know why, but I just think it's cool.
Because Rihanna's in it.
No, I did no. Rihanna's not very attractive.
Oh,
What
here we
does
go.
it have to do with anything?
Here we go.
I'm just saying.
All right, Jonathan.
Well, obviously, the biggest one for me would be the McRib because more people hate the McRib than love it. But I love the McRib.
Me too.
And it is a obsession of mine when they come around. I eat them in twos. It's like Noah's Ark. They go 2 by 2. But
I like how the meat feels when you bite into it.
yeah, for me, guilty pleasures, it's not so much I feel guilty, it's just I recognize that they are of poor quality, but I nevertheless enjoy it. There's a lot of movies like Grease 2 that I love that movie. I think it's better than Grease 1.
You're crazy.
Movies like Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze and Sam Elliott, Starship Troopers,
Yeah.
Point Blank with Keanu Reeves as Johnny Utah, FBI agent. And then a lot of TV shows like Happy Days or Three's Company, I just know that they're just kind of sophomoric in their humor. There's not a lot of creativity. But the weird thing, I don't know why, I can't explain it, but even up until a couple years ago, like I tend to watch a lot of like teen soap shows. Like I watched 90210 when I was in high school and Dawson's Creek. And then even in my early 30s, I watched this show called One Tree Hill. Like
Oh, yeah.
no reason why. There's nothing creative or interesting about it, but I just watched it. And then like the OC, even after it went from bad to really bad. So that's probably one of my most pronounced guilty pleasures.
I'm doing something like that now. There's a show based on the Archie comics called Riverdale. And honest to goodness, like the reviews are good. I think Entertainment Weekly gave it like an A-, maybe B+. It's not an A- show. I mean, it is campy and it sits somewhere between like 90210 and Falcon Crest. You know what I mean? Like
Falcon Crest.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
wow.
It's really campy and weird, but then the tone is different. Like sometimes it's campy, sometimes it's sentimental. It just doesn't know. It's a bit of, I mean, I don't want to say it's a mess, but it's a bit of a mishmash, and I don't know why. Ellen and I both watched that show, so that definitely is on my list. For me, my guilty pleasures tend to be in the area of music.
Yeah, it is.
And like, I think since I've been over 30, my music tastes have changed and gotten a little bit better. But I still have like a soft spot for a lot of 80s music that's really kind of pretty horrible. But I really like it. You know, like like Rock Me Amadeus. You know, I like that song. You like it too. Come on, Frank.
I do not like that song. I hate that song.
I think it's easier for a specific song to fall out of a guilty pleasure, but it's the difference between saying I like Phil Collins In the Air Tonight to saying I like Phil Collins music. Well, and that's really when it becomes a guilty pleasure.
Let me give you 3 guilty pleasures then, okay? Along those lines. I think the first one is a mixed bag because I think a lot of people regard this band or act as good. So, but I'm going to say it. The Bee Gees.
Yeah, I like the Bee Gees.
Yeah.
They're good.
Yeah.
All right. So I like the Bee Gees. Like when I listen, I'm like, every song, I'm like, oh, I like that one. Oh, that's a good song. So
Yeah, they're all good.
All right. How about this one? Hanson.
Ugh, awful.
Okay, you're starting to
The
lose
Christmas
some
album
solid
or-
ground there.
I know I'm going downhill. Like I'm starting with okay, and then the last one I'm going to tell you is going to be Nightmare. But what do you think, Jonathan? Hanson?
No, that's kind of creepy. Dude.
Yeah, it's
I'm not
really
gonna lie.
creepy.
It'd be if an adult woman your age said they liked Hanson, I'd be like, okay, but like,
Yeah. Well,
you?
he's kind of an adult woman.
He is. He's the Janet Reno of psychologists.
I'm not saying I like the Hanson. I don't have pinups of the Hanson brothers.
Oh, thank you for clarifying that, Dave.
I'm saying-
I retract my previous statement.
Right.
then.
I like Hanson's music. All right. Here's another one. Barry Manilow.
Okay.
Wow.
You lost me at hello there.
I know. I'm
Jeez.
telling you. I
Barry
told you.
Manilow.
I was trying to
I
think,
think
what's the worst one that I can think of that people.
I mean, you're getting into Michael Bolton and Kenny G territory.
Oh, okay.
with
See,
Barry
I was getting
Manilow.
Barry Manilow confused with Kenny G.
well,
They're
I,
the same.
Both pretty
Well,
low.
you're usually getting a root canal listening to either one of them. It's very interchangeable.
see, I considered Michael Bolton to just for the shock effect, but I couldn't do it. But you think about Barry Manilow, like Trying to Get the Feeling Again and Copacabana. No? Nothing?
No.
Wow, Dave.
All right.
Yeah.
What
So-
about? I bet you like Celine Dion too, don't you?
No, I do not.
Oh, I love Celine. Why not? She was my first concert.
You went to her concert?
I did. I went with my mom.
Julie loves 80s hair bands. Like, she took me to a concert to see Poison, Lita Ford, and Def Leppard. I'm just like, this is really sad.
So maybe there's no deeper psychology to this, but let me ask you this to wrap this conversation up. If we know something's kind of bad, like I know that, you know, some of these shows or songs or artists or whatever aren't especially good. It's certainly not compared to other acts. Why do we still like them? Like, what is it? If we know the quality isn't good, why do we still like these things? Why do you like Roadhouse, for example, or One Tree Hill? Why is that?
Well, I think I oftentimes make a distinction that art and entertainment can go together, but sometimes they're separated to where there's you recognize on an intellectual level that there's very little talent or merit behind that pop culture product, but nevertheless you find it enjoyable, whether it be simply because it's comforting and enjoyable on a very lazy level, it's familiarity, or it's simplicity. We talk a lot about blockbuster films finding that lazy, central point where you know it's tried and true, and you nevertheless can predict everything that's going to happen in a film, but you go nevertheless and you enjoy it nevertheless. I think a lot of my guilty pleasures fall into that pure entertainment, no artistic merit, and then the other is when I was first exposed to it. So there's a nostalgic background, probably before I knew fully how little redeeming qualities it had on an artistic level.
How about you, Frank?
It's pure nostalgia. There's nothing else to it. It's if it's sci-fi, I will watch it and I will love it. And if it's creamy, processed, nasty cheese, I will eat it.
Those pauses really just That was uncalled for there, Frank.
Emma Kate, anything to add?
Yeah, no, I just honestly like the fluff where I know I'm not going to get like emotionally upset by something I'm watching if it's like super intense or sad or whatever. I just want to see people go to the gym, do some laundry, a little spray tan, get into a fight. That's it.
Right.
You know, Dave, I also think there are times when I like the contrarian position as well. So I love sometimes seeing how worked up people can get by something that you like and they cannot fathom how somebody can find any redeeming qualities in it. So there is a part of me that likes that. Like, I love talking about the McRib, and I love seeing people's expressions when I tell them, oh yeah, anytime they're here, like I'll eat. I've had like 4 or 5 meals in a row where it was a McRib.
Yeah. And along those lines of being contrarian, sometimes there are things that people find horrible that, you know, you see something good in, or vice versa. You mentioned Starship Troopers. One of the things about that movie that has always stuck with me, I've gotten a subscription to Entertainment Weekly since I think 1993, literally. Like I've maintained it. It's the one rule of our house that we will always have a subscription to Entertainment Weekly.
The one rule.
There's no other rule
them all
other than that. And it's the one movie that the reviewer said, honestly, I don't know. It's either terrible or it is a super subversive, smart satire. I don't know. And so, you know, it kind of falls in that where people could reasonably disagree. So speaking of things that we're going to recommend, let's go back around the horn and do our doctor's orders. These are things that we're personally enjoying in pop culture.
Doctor's order.
And Emma Kate, how about you? Anything to recommend for us?
So I actually stumbled across a new song that was very surprising for me because I am not a huge country music fan, but I listened to Keith Urban's new song called Female. And I thought it was just an enjoyable song. And it also has a great message. And I feel like for country music especially, they don't typically do things in a really time-relevant way. But then at the same time, they also don't like to kind of push the envelope. And this song is really about respecting women. And so with all the things that have been going on in the media with Weinstein and whatnot, I just thought this was a really great song.
And Frank?
There's an app and a desktop application called Habitica, Habitica, and it just gamifies your life, and it's been a lot of fun here in the Shrink Tank.
Awesome. Jonathan?
One of my favorite bands of all time recently released the 25th anniversary edition of their seminal album. It's REM's Automatic for the People. It turns 25 this month. It's a remastered version. It's a 3 CD set. It's got their demos as well as the one concert they performed back in 1992. I highly recommend you check it out.
And for me, I've only purchased 2 country music albums in my entire life, and one of them I just purchased about a month ago, and it is Jason Isbell. The album is called The Nashville Sound, and I didn't just get it because it's called The Nashville Sound, and I live in Nashville now, but because it was nominated for a Country Music Award for Best Album, and I previewed it, and I really liked it. What's cool about it is that it's not pure country. There's country songs, there's rock songs, there's singer-songwriter songs. There's a song that sounds like it's by Elliott Smith almost. And I think the message in that diversity is that's what the Nashville Sound has become, is that sort of eclectic country, rock, singer-songwriter, all of it. But the songs are really great. Jason Isbell, and the album is The Nashville Sound. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Shrink Tank Podcast. We hope you'll check out shrinktank.com for great articles and videos, and we hope you'll follow us on Twitter at @shrink_tank and like us on Facebook. Our producer and music composer, Sean Beck. For Emma Kate Wright, Jonathan Hedderly, and Frank Gaskell in Charlotte, I'm Dave Verhagen in Nashville. Tell all your friends about us, and have a great week.
Shrink Tank.